Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo. Okay, so as I said last time, I'm going to give my lectures on the Isopanisad until the Isopanisad is finished, or until I am finished. Let's see who's going to be finished first. So we spoke a little bit about the Isopanisad last time, and it's very interesting because it's one of the first books that Srila Prabhupada translated. And I think maybe in those days Srila Prabhupada was maybe trying to figure out the Western audience. And there is an important thing that amongst scholars, the Upanishads are considered the evidence. You know, if you discuss with an academic, he will want to discuss the truth or not truth. Excuse me, I have to take this off, it's very hot. The truth or not truth of the Vedic statements based on the Upanishads. Other parts of the Vedic literatures they consider maybe more modern or more ritualistic. So Srila Prabhupada started by translating this book, and Isopanisad, actually, if we read verse by verse, maybe it's not really evident, but I was doing a little bit like a general sketch of the whole Upanishad. The Isopanisad is also, I think it's the first book on Bhakti Shastri. I never took Bhakti Shastri, but
yeah, it is Isopanisad, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, and Bhagavad Gita. These are the four.
Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita.
And now in Mayapur Institute, they are also adding Prabhupada Lila Mitra.
Yeah.
So Isopanisad is the first book that one studies on Bhakti Shastri. So one interesting thing, which is in this Upanishad, it doesn't mention the name of Krishna. It uses Isha, which means the supreme controller, or Ishvara. So this Upanishad is also sometimes also called Ishavasya Upanishad. Isha Upanishad or Ishavasya. We're going to discuss the verse today about Ishavasya. So when I was looking a little bit like on the Isopanisad as a whole, we have the 3 verses which teach us that we should live in harmony with the Ishvara, with the Supreme Lord. So there is a thread through this. Sometimes when we read one verse, next verse, we forgot, we don't remember the thread, but there is a thread through all of this. So the first part is to live in harmony with the Supreme Lord. This is like this invocation, this first verse we read last time, which we're going to go back a little bit today. Then the next 4 verses is understanding the Ishvara by developing spiritual vision. So first it said we should live in harmony with God. And of course it's a natural question. I mean, how can we understand God? If we're going to, I tell you to live in harmony with somebody, you must understand who that person is. So the next 4 verses, 4 to 8, they are dedicated to that. Then, in the next verses, it's it's explained the right and the wrong vidya, knowledge. Not all knowledge is proper knowledge. Like knowledge based on the observations of the senses, which actually this will be in the verse today, this is not considered definitive knowledge. I mean, like you can say that, you look at the sun in the morning and the sun is red. You look at midday, it's shining. Maybe it's behind the clouds, it's white. So, you're seeing things with the senses, and it doesn't. But the sun didn't change color, but we saw changes. So we're going to go a little bit into this today. So the proper knowledge. What is the cultivation of knowledge? What is the cultivation of ignorance? It's here. And then, because, when approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so to say, knowledge is the brain. Then, or at the same time, it comes upasana, or worship of the Supreme Lord. So this is also verse 12 to 14. And the last verse is, even if we have all the knowledge, and even if we are put our heart into this, without the mercy of the Supreme Lord, we cannot get anywhere. So the last 3 verses are prayers to the Supreme Lord to reveal Himself. Anyway, I was just going through the verses, and it's quite interesting that there is a thread through it, and it's not always that one sees that one reads from verse to verse. So here in the section 1, which is the verse invocation 1, 2, 3, living in harmony with the Ishvara, we read last time this first invocation, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachite Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishite. So this verse describes the complete absolute truth. So the Supreme Personality of God, the Ishvara. Sometimes, in some places, Srila Prabhupada says, sometimes it's better to say the absolute truth, because everybody accepts the absolute truth. But if you say the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and maybe there is an impersonalist, you will not accept that. So Prabhupada says sometimes it's better you just say the absolute truth. So the absolute truth is perfect and complete, and everything which emanates from them, from Him, from the Supreme Lord, is also perfect and complete. We spoke about this last time. Like in this world, it's here, seasons come, there is sun, there is heat, there is food, there is air, there is so many things. So then the other point in this verse, it was that human form of life offers a complete facility both for sense gratification, but also facility for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we spoke a little bit like this material world can be a prison or can be a hospital. I gave this example, which I took actually from another lecture. And I think it's a very good example, because here in the material world everything is provided, but there is also a lot of suffering. So that devotee gave example of 2 places where everything is provided and there is a lot of suffering. This is the prison and the hospital. So you go to the hospital, you're taken care of, they give you food, but they come with needles. A lot of suffering. They make different treatments and you suffer. And in the prison, okay, maybe you have food, you have roof over your head, but you cannot go anywhere. You are encaged. So the analogy is like, if you are a materialist, this world is like a prison. If you are a devotee, this world is like a hospital. We are here to get cured. Prabhupada used to call our material disease skin disease, because it means we think we are this body. So this was the And then finally, in the last verse, there was this last paragraph about devotional service. So today, we are going to read mantra number 1, okay? You didn't get still this screen, eh? No, because I was asking Bhaktinema if we could have a screen so that everybody can follow the verse. But
we had it last.
Yeah, on Guru Purnima it was there.
Yeah.
Do we have a small screen?
Now we did it on the wall.
Ah,
I don't know what kind of thing she used.
we have some.
Shall we take it?
Anyway, it's too complicated. We just read it. So please repeat after me, mantra 1. Isha avasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha ma grida kasya svit dhanam ishavasyamidam sarvam ishavasyamidam sarvam ishavasyamidam sarvam ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat kincha jagatyam jagat yatkincha jagatyam jagat yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha tena tyaktena bhunjitaha tena tyaktena bhunjitaha. Actually, I have a second book here.
We have more books here.
Isopanisad?
Yeah. This there is on shelf. Straightforward on the bottom.
I mean, what's going on with this?
Yeah,
It doesn't want to show up.
There. Yeah.
Here it is.
And there is more.
This is Swedish.
Yes, it's
But it's Sanskrit.
But just for the Sanskrit.
Oh,
There is a couple more. Vill du ha? Det finns på längst till höger längst ner. Yes.
Okay, we go to the last line. Magridha kasvi dhanam. Magridha kasyasvi dhanam. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bhunjitaha. Magridha kasyasvi dhanam. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bhunjitaha. Magrida kasyasvi dhanam. Maybe everybody can read, or some of you can read.
Ishavasya idam sarvam.
Ishavasyam idam sarvam.
Yatkincha jagatya jagat.
Yatkincha jagatyam jagat.
Tena tyaktena bhunjita.
Tena tyaktena bhunjitaha.
Magrita kasyasvi dhanam.
Magridha kasyasvi dhanam.
Ishavasyam idam sarvam.
Ishavasyam idam sarvam.
Yatkincha jagatyam jagat.
Yatkincha jagatyam jagat.
Tena tyaktina bhunjitaha.
Tena tyaktena bhunjitaha.
Magrihat kasya svidhanam.
Magridha kasyasvi dhanam. Anybody else? Kameshwari?
Ishavasyamidam sarvam
Ishavasyamidam sarvam
Yatkincha jagatyam jagat
Yatkinchat Jagatyam Jagat
Tena datyena bhujata
Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitaha
Magritha kasya svethanam
Maghida Kasya Svidhanam. Isha, by the Lord. Avasyam, controlled. Idam, this. Sarvam, all. Yatkincha, whatever. Jagatyam, within the universe. Jagat, all that is inanimate or inanimate.
All that is animate or inanimate.
Tena, by him. Chaktena, set apart quota.
Set apart quota.
Bhunjitaha, you should accept. Ma, do not. Gridha, endeavor to gain. Kasya svid, of anyone else. Dhanam, the wealth. So translation by Srila Prabhupada. Everything animate or inanimate. You have an English one, huh? Notice if it's different, because I had a very old edition for 72. If they have changed, you can let me know. So translation by Srila Prabhupada. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Maybe you can repeat after me. Who has English? You have the English. Yes. Everything animate or inanimate.
Everything animate or inanimate.
That is within the universe. Is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So now we're reading the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So just to go back to this overview. So in these first two paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada is going to speak about the glory of the Vedic knowledge, kind of an introduction to the rest of the verse. So Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down through the perfect disciplic succession of spiritual masters, beginning with the Lord himself. The first word of Vedic knowledge was spoken by the Lord himself, and it is being received from transcendental sources. The words spoken by the Lord are called apaurushaya, which indicates they are not delivered by any mundane person. A living being who lives in the mundane world has 4 defects. Number 1, he is certain to commit mistakes. Number 2, he is subject to illusion. Number 3, he has a propensity to cheat others. And 4, his senses are imperfect. Being conditioned by these 4 imperfections, one cannot deliver perfect information of all-pervading knowledge. The Vedas are not produced by such imperfect creatures. Vedic knowledge was originally imparted into the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples, who have handed down the process through history. Since the Lord is Purnam, or all-perfect, there is no possibility of his being subject to the laws of material nature. However, the living entities and inanimate objects are both controlled by the laws of nature and ultimately by the Lord's potency. This Isopanisad is part of the Ajurveda, and consequently, it contains information concerning the proprietorship of all things existing within the universe. Is this from Taittiriya? No. It's from Taittiriya Upanishad? No. Taittiriya. Is this from Taittiriya Upanishad? No. Ajurveda. So,
It's written later on. This Upanishad is part of Yajurveda.
Yajurveda, yeah. We mentioned last time that there is 4 Vedas, and 4 Vedas it's divided. Each one of the Vedas is divided in 4 different parts. There is the Samritas, the Haranyakas, the Brahmanas, and the Upanishads, and the Samhitas and the Aranyakas. They are basically ritualistic, and then as you move to Brahmanas and Upanishads, you get more into the aspect of knowledge. It's just general knowledge about this. So this is one thing which it's quite accepted by devotees in general. You know, it's why we are here, because we have been looking for knowledge maybe in so many different places, and we have understood that maybe the knowledge we got here and there, maybe it was good up to a certain extent, but at one point it becomes clouded by one of these mistakes which we are prone to commit. So in order to go back to the spiritual world, we cannot go back to the spiritual world by a dint of our mental speculation. So we have to receive this from a transcendental source. And I mean, I have been for many years in this, they are called interreligious forums, where we discuss what is common amongst different religions. And one sees that there is many nice people there, but they have a problem. Now, this is my book. This was my copy, sorry. There is many people, I shouldn't say my because we don't own anything, but anyway, it's in my care. Actually, in the old days, we never wrote names in the books. We wrote in care of. So now I revealed myself, my book. It's not mine, it belongs to Krishna. I'm just administrating it. So anyway, there is many nice people and they try to understand God, but because they follow mundane knowledge, they cannot come to the point of actually getting real spiritual knowledge. They have this desire, I want to understand God, God is in my life, I'm thinking about God, I'm praying to God. But then they are eating meat. Or, drinking alcohol, doing so many activities which will hinder their progress in spiritual life. And this is because they don't have a proper authority. So in the Hare Krishna movement, we are very lucky because, as it's explained here, this knowledge comes to us since the beginning of the universe. The disciplic succession to which we belong, it's called Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So it came from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna instructed Lord Brahma in the beginning of the creation. Lord Brahma was the first created living entity. And when Lord Brahma was born, he was created by the Supreme Lord. His body was created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when he was born in a lotus flower. I don't have any picture here. No. So when Lord Brahma was born in this lotus flower, because he's extremely intelligent, Lord Brahma actually he doesn't have a physical body in the same sense as we have. Lord Brahma has a body made of pure intelligence. So he doesn't have any mind. He doesn't have. He has intelligence and ahankara. Sometimes, not always. Our Brahma, we are very fortunate because our Lord Brahma is a devotee. But in general, Lord Brahma has a body made of pure intelligence. So, because he has a body made of pure intelligence, and he's born in a universe which is empty, because the creation has not happened yet. And instead of accepting the Big Bang, everything came from nothing. Because he's very intelligent, he doesn't accept such a theory, because we never saw anywhere something coming from nothing. Things come always from something. So Lord Brahma, he started to meditate and said, what I'm doing here, this place is completely empty, but it must be some origin to all of this. So he started to meditate. It's very beautifully described in the Bhagavatam that he climbed up this stem of the lotus flower, up and down, and trying to find, where did I come from, where this flower lead, but he could not really find it. So he went back and he started to meditate. And because his consciousness was pure, and he had the proper desire to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna inspired him within the heart. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's in the second canto, this Chatur Shloka, second canto, Chatur Shloka. These 4 verses, Lord Krishna spoke to Lord Brahma, which is like a form of concentrated Bhagavatam. So our disciplic successions come from Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma instructed Narada Muni. Narada Muni instructed Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva instructed Madhvacharya. And then it came Madhavendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya, etc. Finally to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So we are very fortunate. I remember when I joined Hare Krishna in the Bhakta program, they gave us this example that how difficult it is. I think this comes actually from a lecture from Srila Prabhupada. How difficult it is to find a spiritual master. We think it's, we are in ISKCON, there are so many spiritual masters, so many books, but these things are not easy, It's a very great privilege. So anyway, they gave this example that you have a turtle. Turtle goes in the ocean and it comes up to breathe. Yeah? You know this, we have these 7 oceans. So the turtle goes here and there. And then there is a little piece of wood, and sometimes the wood, when it's in the water, these knots, they fall off. So it becomes a little hole in the piece of wood. So the turtle goes, turtles live very long. I think some turtles live like 200 years. So it goes back and forth. And at one point, there is one piece of wood and there is one turtle in the ocean. And this turtle puts his head through the hole in the piece of wood. Did you ever heard this, Mohini?
Yeah, maybe it's a long time ago.
Because they used to teach us in the Bhakti program. Very rare to come in contact with a pure devotee who is in the proper disciplic succession. So we should try to grab this opportunity. So anyway, so there is these 4 defects, and it's important for us to learn this mainly for preaching reasons. So we commit mistakes, we are subject to illusion, we have a propensity to cheat others. Like all the salesmen, they always say, for you, no profit, especially in India, or not anymore.
Yeah,
They still do. We went to Vrindavan and did shopping for the temple and dhotis and saris and so on. And they always said, for you, no profit. Of course, they're making profit. They have to live. But this propensity, and our senses are imperfect. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada gives the example, when you look at the sun, it looks like the side of a cartel, with our eyes. But actually it's an enormous planet, it's millions of times bigger than the Earth. So Srila Prabhupada here glorifies the knowledge from the Vedic scriptures, and there is a word here which is important, it's aparushaya. So Purusha, it's almost like in English, it's person. It's the same word. Purusha and person is actually, in the European language, is coming from Sanskrit. So person comes from Purusha. Aparushaya, it means it doesn't come from any mundane person. It doesn't have a human origin. It's a transcendental knowledge coming from a transcendental source. So now we're going to the second part, which is actually dealing with the verse itself, which is this Ishavasyam. Ishavasyam, it means the Supreme Lord is the controller and the owner of everything. We're going to get a little bit into this. So the last part, this Isopanisad, is part of the Ajurveda, and consequently it contains information concerning the proprietorship of all things existing within the universe. This is confirmed in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 7:4 and 5, where para and apara prakriti are discussed. The elements of nature, earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego all belong to the inferior or material energy of the Lord, whereas the living entities, the organic energy, is the para prakriti, the superior energy of the Lord. Both of the prakritis or energies are emanations of the Lord, and ultimately He is the controller of everything that exists. There is nothing in the universe that does not belong either to the para or apara prakriti. Therefore, everything is the property of the Supreme Being. So these verses which Srila Prabhupada refers to in Bhagavad Gita, 7:4 and 5, one is this Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kamano Avudiracha. There is these energies, earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. Krishna calls them my 8 separated lower energies. We spoke once about learning verses, so this is very practical. If one knows the Sanskrit, it goes very easily. Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayur, Kam, Mano, Buddhi, Revacha, Ahankara, Ityame, Bina Pakritir, Ashtadaha. So this is when you're speaking about philosophical issues, and this is the Sanskrit verses are very helpful. And then in the next verse, I think it starts Aparayam Tvas 7:5. Aparatam Tvasanyam. Can you check? You cannot. 7:5. In next verse, and Krishna says these are his energies. He's the proprietor with these energies. And besides 7:5. Aparayam Tvas Maniam. I must check these verses, my God. Aparayam Tvas. So besides this material energy, which is Krishna calls it separated energy. Of Of course, in one sense, we say that nothing is separated from Krishna, from our point of view, but Krishna says that his material energy is separated from him, while the living entities, this superior energy, he is not separated from him. So Prakriti means energy emanating from the Lord, and Apara, it's non-transcendental. It's material energy, and Para means the transcendental spiritual energy. Got it? No, you can read.
Kapariyamritastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param javabhutam mahabaho yayadam dharayate jagat.
Translation, you would like to read?
Yes. Besides this, O Almighty Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature.
Okay, so all these energies, they are emanating from the Lord. So the Supreme Being, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, is a complete person. And he has complete and perfect intelligence to adjust everything by means of his different potencies. We'll see this later when we study the Bhagavatam. One very important thing about understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that he is surrounded by all these potencies. There is the internal potency which keeps the whole spiritual world. There is the devotees of the Lord. There is the material world. Krishna has so many potencies. Yeah? Krishna also has opulences. So the Supreme Being is often compared to fire. And everything organic and inorganic is compared to the heat and light of that fire. So just as fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, the Lord displays his energy in different ways. He thus remains the ultimate controller, sustainer, and dictator of everything. He is the knower of everything and the benefactor of everyone. He is full of all conceivable potencies: power, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So here it's explained just in a very short paragraph, very concentrated knowledge. First of all, everything which exists, it's like this comparison is given here and is given in many Upanishads, that if you have a fire, this fire is emanating heat and light. So in the same way, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this whole cosmic manifestation is emanating, and all these living entities are also emanating. Maybe a little difficult to use the word emanation, because normally when we say emanation is something coming out of something else, but all these living entities, they are eternal. This energy is also eternal. It's just manifesting. And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead has these 6 opulences. When you speak about Bhagavan, Bhagavan is the possessor of these 6 opulences. So these are also important for us to learn: supreme power, supreme wealth, supreme fame, supreme beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So each one of them, Srimad Bhagavatam develops these characteristics in very, very much detail. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that but for the Lord, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by the Lord as his quota. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink the milk. She eats grass and grain, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Such is the arrangement of the Lord, and we should be satisfied with those things that he has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. Like sometimes you may want to do something in your house. Like you want to do this altar. So you bring in wood, you bring in cloth, and then you bring a carpenter. Yeah? So the carpenter starts to make the altar, and when he's finished, he says, this altar is mine. I made it. But you say, wait a moment, I bought the wood, I bought the cloth, you are in my house. So this example is like, we are here in this material world, but actually we don't own anything. I mean, the air is given by free, the water is given by free, for free. There is all this nature, everything is supplied by the Supreme Lord. But we should understand that these things don't belong to us. We are just using them. We are allowed to use them. And the best way to use them, of course, is for devotional service of the Lord. So this is what is being defined here is the Ishavashyam. Ishavashyam means the Supreme Lord is the owner and the controller. And this is two separate things, because sometimes you own something, but you cannot control it, like your children. you may have children. You say, these are my children, but they just do anything. So, but the Supreme Lord, no. He is the owner, but he's also the controller. It's not that the universe, is just going anywhere out of control, in an unexpected direction. Krishna keeps everything under his control. A house, for instance, is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. And if we think in terms of the Isopanisad, we must know that we cannot produce any of these materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labor. A laborer cannot claim to be a proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. This is my example of the altar. The laborer, the worker, cannot say, I made this, therefore it's mine. He works in a car manufacturer, and in the evening he says, I made this car, I'm driving home. This will not work, because none of the ingredients which he used for that was his. In modern society, there is always a great quarrel between laborers and capitalists. This quarrel has taken international shape, and the world is endangered. Men face one another in enmity and snarl just like cats and dogs. Isopanisad cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it can deliver the message of Godhead to men through bona fide acharyas, holy teachers. The human race should take the Vedic wisdom of Isopanisad and not quarrel over material possessions. One must be satisfied with whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of the Lord. There can be no peace if the communists or capitalists or any other party claims proprietorship of the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. The capitalists cannot curb the communists simply by political maneuvering, nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the property that they claim to be their own is stolen. Consequently, they will be liable to punishment by the laws of nature. Nuclear bombs are in the hands of both communists and capitalists. And if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that these bombs will ultimately ruin both parties. This is very relevant for modern world situation. Thus, in order to save themselves and bring peace to the world, both parties must follow the instructions of Isopanisad. So, it's interesting, Prabhupada mentions here the quarrel between communists and capitalists. Because actually Srila Prabhupada is hinting to the Varnashrama system. Because the communist system says actually the same thing as Isopanisad. Nobody owns anything, or everybody owns everything. Which turns out to be the same. And the capitalistic system, so it happens, in a communistic system, people are very restricted in terms of ownership, because people want to own their own house, and they want to have a certain forum where to play. But in the communist governments, they are generally very restricted because the state is very oppressive, and this creates dissatisfaction. The capitalistic system is not better. You can get a little room to play, but then you are constantly exploited as a worker to produce things for something else. So none of these systems are proper. And I don't know actually if Srila Prabhupada mentions here, but later he spoke about something which is called spiritual communism. And what he means by that is that in the Vedas there is a system called the Varnashrama system. And in the Varnashrama system there is a certain scale of people who are able to influence society. And on the top of this scale, they are the Brahmanas. Because capitalism means Vaishyas in control, communism means Kshatriyas in control. So the Varnashrama is opposed to these two systems because the Varnashrama system says the Brahmanas should be in control, and the Brahmanas should control the Kshatriyas, and the Kshatriyas should control the Vaishyas so that there is no exploitation. You understand this? Or is it too abstract? Mohini?
Yeah, sort of.
So normally in the Vedic times there was what we call, or what the Vedic scriptures call, there is a saintly king. So there is a king, and this king believes in God, he accepts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of that he follows the Brahmanas who have knowledge. And the Brahmanas also work for the welfare of the society. They give knowledge, they give instructions about the transcendental world. Sometimes actually the Brahmanas, they are called Bhudeva, the demigods on earth, Bhudeva. So the Brahmanas instructed the king, and the king had to follow the advice of the Brahmanas, and he kept control of the Vaishyas, so that the Vaishyas don't exploit their workers, the laborers. Because this is a great problem in society, that people work, but if there is no check on these big capitalists, they will just exploit you. Like I have read about this famous Amazon. It's a man who owns, is it 3 trillion or $3 billion? I don't know. Anyway, it's at least nine digits, at least 3 billion. It could be 12 digits. But still, they pay very little to the workers, 30, 40 crowns an hour. And actually, I heard that a few years ago, he was looking to buy an island. Yeah, he wanted to buy a big island. And why? To bring all the workers there and pay them as little as possible. This is true. This was, but he couldn't get a own island because like if you would come to Sweden, there is worker rights. Even in America and all over Europe, there is certain rights. You cannot just exploit people too much. But he was not happy with that. You must have an island where you probably pay 1 crown an hour or something. I don't know what was the idea. So these capitalists exploit people, and the communists, they just create a general uninterest of people in life. Like I have a Russian friend, he used to tell me, how is it? The government pretends to pay us, and we pretend to work. Swayambhuva is one of his favorites. So the Varnashrama system, it's a system which leads for gradual elevation, because on the top of society You have brahmanas who instruct about Krishna, so people don't become completely materialistic. In modern society, sense gratification has completely taken over. So these big leaders, I just read this morning that Biden declared, I don't know if it's yesterday or today. Today is the transgender something day. You know, just these people are just completely on the platform of the senses. They don't have an understanding of the goal of human life and what we are doing here. They're just demons. Anyway. So where were we? Okay, human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. So I will just read this paragraph again. Human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. They must be intelligent enough to realize the importance and the aim of human life. The Vedic literatures are compiled for humanity and not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs can kill other animals for food without incurring sin. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste buds, he is responsible for breaking the laws of nature. Consequently, he must be punished. So here Prabhupada mentions a little bit, he starts to mention about, okay, we don't own anything, but we have a quota. That means God has given us things which we can utilize and that we can live happily with. So meat is not one of them. The standard of life for human beings cannot be applied to animals. The tiger does not eat rice, wheat, or drink cow's milk, because he has been given food in the shape of animal flesh. There are many animals and birds that are either vegetarian or carnivorous, but none of them transgresses the laws of nature, as these laws have been ordained by the will of God. Animals, birds, reptiles, and other lower life forms strictly adhere to the laws of nature. Therefore, there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. Human life alone is a life of responsibility. So for animals, there is no karma. It's not that the tiger commits a great sin by eating a deer. This is his food. That's it. So karma can only be incurred in the human form of life. And generally, according to the karma we incur in this life, we'll have a certain tour. If it's bad karma, we have a certain tour in the animal kingdom. It may be 5 lives, it may be 50, it may be 500, depending on the karma which we created during this human form of life. But once you leave the human form, cats, dogs, all these animals, they cannot create any karma. Karma is only created in the human form of life, because only in the human form of life there is a responsibility, there is intelligence to analyze, and the possibility of doing choice. You cannot make a tiger vegetarian. Of course, we saw here on Guru Purnima that Lord Chaitanya, when we went to Jarikanda, children had a theater here, and they had the tiger dancing with the deer. But this was Lord Chaitanya. In general, you cannot make tigers vegetarians. It is wrong to consider that simply by becoming vegetarian, one can avoid transgressing the laws of nature. Vegetables also have life. It is nature's law that one living being is meant to feed another. Thus, one should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. The point is to recognize the Supreme Lord. Animals do not have developed consciousness by which to recognize the Lord, but the human being is sufficiently intelligent to take lessons from Vedic literatures and thereby know how the laws of nature are working and derive profit out of such knowledge. If a man neglects the instructions of the Vedic literatures, his life becomes very risky. A human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord. He must be a devotee of the Lord, offer everything to the Lord's service, and partake only of the remnants of food offered to the Lord. This will enable him to discharge his duty properly. In Bhagavad Gita 9:26, the Lord directly states that he accepts vegetarian food from the hands of a pure devotee. Therefore, a human being should not only become a strict vegetarian, but should also become a devotee of the Lord and offer the Lord all his food. Then only should one partake of prasad, or mercy of God. A devotee who can act in this consciousness can properly discharge the duty of human life. Those who do not offer their food to the Lord actually eat sin and subject themselves to various types of distress, which are the results of sin. This is an interesting thing because I've been in Udupi, and there is a temple started by Madhvacharya in the 13th century. They have Udupi Krishna deity there. And of course they offer the food, but not only that, they eat only the traditional vegetables which they would eat in the Vedic times. So no carrots, no potatoes. They don't use tomatoes because they come from America. Huh?
No chilies.
No chili, no paprika. So they use their traditional vegetables. And what is specially with these vegetables, it's that you don't kill the plant when you eat them. If you have a zucchini, you cut, but the plant continues to be alive. Yeah? But when you take out a carrot, the carrot screams and says, "No! Don't take me out." We are killing, actually. It's not the same thing as killing an animal, but one is actually killing. So, Srila Prabhupada says here, one should not be proud of being a vegetarian. Of course, we live in a part of the world which is very impious. So, if we would not pull out carrots and potatoes, there would be nothing to eat here in Sweden. But in the old Vedic system, people just use these things which, you cut off the pumpkin, or, they have many different pumpkins. This I noticed, different shapes. And they have Lokis and Karellas and whatever. So all these they offer in the temple with minimum violence. Of course, they also use grains, and grains, you kill the grain when you cook it. There is no way back. But the thing is, in order to, I think there was a cookbook which was karma free. No, it was in Govinda's in Lund in the old days. We had advertisement, karma free cost. Food without karma. And actually,
all the vegetable that grows underneath, everything above is okay.
it's not exactly that, but when you pull out a carrot, the carrot, the carrot cannot continue to live. But if you cut a tomato from the tomato plant, the tomato plant can go on.
Yeah.
This is just. But for us, it's not super relevant because, first of all, we live in Sweden. There is no choice. And then we offer the food to Krishna before we eat. And when you do that, then the karma which you incurred by doing this violence towards the plants, you offer it to Krishna. Krishna takes care of it. Okay?
Yeah.
So those who do not offer their food to the Lord actually eat sin and subject themselves to various types of distress, which are the results of sin. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience to the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. Disobedience to the laws of nature or the order of the Lord brings ruin to a human being. If one is sober, knows the laws of nature, and is not influenced by unnecessary attachment or aversion, he is sure to be recognized by the Lord and is sure to become eligible to go back to Godhead, back to the eternal home. So here in this first mantra and in the purport of Srila Prabhupada is bringing a person who just understood that there is a God, how to live in harmony with God, which kind of rules to follow to be in harmony with God. So first of all, we understand that God is the proprietor of everything. That is also helpful, fundamental point of view, because it makes us less attached. Otherwise, if we have something, like my book, nobody take it. This is my book. Otherwise, if we don't understand that things belong to God, to the Supreme Personality of God, to Krishna, then we have a tendency to become overly attached to material things. But we should understand we came to this world without anything, and we live also without anything. So everything we have here during this life is borrowed. Of course, the difference between devotees and non-devotees is that non-devotees utilize the world for their own enjoyment. And devotees try to use these ingredients which we are given by the Lord, and we offer them back to Krishna. Actually, not many devotees know, when we make artik, does somebody know the meaning of artik? What are we doing? Kameshwari, you must know. No?
Actually, we are doing the same as they did in Lord Chaitanya's house or Lord Advaita's house.
Correct. And what they're doing?
The ceremony
Yeah.
of offering
But the meaning of this is...
the different materials.
Exactly. We offer the elements.
Yeah.
What you said is correct. There is these 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And we offer these things back to the Supreme Personality of God. Like you offer incense, this symbolizes the earth, because only the earth has smell. Water has no smell. So only on earth there is smell manifested. So, and for a flower, and you offer water, you offer fire. So we offer back, we got all these elements from Krishna, and we offer them back to Krishna. This is actually the meaning of artik. It's not just... there is a deeper meaning, because sometimes people think this is a ritual. It's not a ritual, it has a deep meaning. And we have the chamara, we offer air and peacock feather. So this is the proper utilization of the things we are given by the Lord. We try to use them and offer them back to Krishna. Like when we have children, we can try to make them Krishna conscious, teach them how to worship Krishna, bring them to the temple. When we cook for them, offer the food to Krishna. There is actually something interesting which happens in the body, is that if one eats unoffered food, and if one eats offered food, actually we have this statement that every 7 years we change our body completely. Yeah? So if you offer everything and you cook it nicely, offer to Krishna, take prasadam with respect, after 7 years, your body is made of prasadam.
Too much prasadam, actually.
But if it's prasadam, we cannot get too much. So our body becomes made of prasadam by this gradual process of purification, of offering the food to Krishna, taking the remnants with respect. Okay, so I will end here. So I will just go through everything. So this verse is mantra number 1. It explains the Ishavasya principle. Ishavasya means Isha is the Lord. Avasya, it means that everything is owned and controlled by the Lord in this world. Idam Sarvam. So Srila Prabhupada starts by explaining the glories of the Vedic knowledge, which coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how fortunate we are to be in contact with that knowledge, how the Lord is the proprietor of everything. Then it's not just because Krishna owns everything, we get nothing. No, Krishna wants living entities to be happy. So therefore, we have our quota. And here in the purport, it specifically said, that we should not eat meat. This is not part of our quota. Our quota is that we should be vegetarian. We should eat milk products, fruits, vegetables, grains. And then Srila Prabhupada explains the animals cannot discriminate, so for them. The society should be organized in such a way so that the quota which were given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not abused by some, who will take everything and will leave nothing for the others. And then finally here, in the end, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that we should offer our food, we should offer all the elements we get from Krishna to worshiping Krishna, and to worship Krishna, and in this way we don't incur any sinful activities. Okay? This is very simple, but it's very important. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Bhakti ma'am. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I not be all time, and just now someone is like, if we think about the quota that Krishna gives to everyone, and it is like, is the same for everyone, or it is about where they are or what they are asking for, how much quota they want, and how to be in balance and to know how much it is from Krishna and how much it is from our desire, our mind, or our ego, how to keep it this.
So this thing, it's what Krishna gives not the same for everybody, and actually elsewhere in one of Srila Prabhupada's books, he says, there is the ant and the elephant. Obviously the elephant eats much more. So it is a little bit different for different people because they might have different needs. How to know our own needs. This comes a little bit with, first of all, understanding that things belong to the Lord. That's the first. Then we have to understand our own temporary position in this material world. When we understand that any moment, of course we should not go and meditate on that, but we should at least have this understanding that life can be finished at any second. Any second life can be finished. So therefore, what can I bring with me to the next life? So I can only bring things which are my own self-realization, my own spiritual development, which the soul has gained. So this you can bring with you, but material things we cannot bring. But then, Krishna is also generous. He doesn't want his devotees to suffer. So Krishna gives freely, and you take what you need. There is also example of Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So they were ministers for a Muslim king. What's his name? Some Shah, Hussain something Shah, and they retired from his service. So what did they do with the money? They gave 50% to the Vaishnavas. They gave 25% to their family, and they saved 25% for their future needs. because I mean they went to Vrindavan, and of course in India in those days it was easier because you could live as a mendicant, because of climate, and people were more pious. So it's okay that you take care of yourself. One should actually take care of oneself, because this body is a little bit like, in one sense, if one has a spiritual understanding, the body is a temple for the super soul. So you should not mistreat it by starving or, by in different ways torturing this body. I actually remember in the old days, we took cold showers in ISKCON. Some people still do, taking cold showers. And there was one devotee, he didn't like cold showers, so he told me that to take a cold shower, you're torturing the super soul within the body. But then I asked this later to Prabhupada. I said, come on, this is, sages have done this, thousands of years. This is not torturing the super soul within the body. With what is torturing the super soul within the body, it's referred also in Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada, is that, they do absurd austerities, austerities which don't lead anywhere. They just torture the body. I don't want to mention them, but there is many, in the yogic tradition, there is many things one does which, it's a torture for one's body. So this process is not advised. You should take care of your body, but you should take cold shower in the morning. I also heard Prabhupada said not for women. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody knows. Tlasi? Women, should they take cold shower or not? No? Kameshwari, you don't know? I know for men, all men should take. It wakes them up.
I do, and in beginning it was just a little bit the mind. It is too cold, and afterward you are used to do it. It is amazing, yeah.
Then you think it's not cold enough.
It's not cold enough. Exactly.
It is not cold shower.
Yeah.
We used to travel to Portugal, and then I put on the cold water and said, what is this? 20 degrees. Anything else? Thank you for everything, for listening. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Isopanisad ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premananda. Haribol.